Hello. Today I would like to talk about the state of Melee. A few months ago, I published my most disliked video called Melee is Still Melee. I published this video after GGG released their 3.25 patch notes, which buffed melee damage to the moon, and everyone was on the melee hype train. In response, I felt the need to tell people that higher damage numbers does not make a build good or fun, but the PoB warriors were in full force, and if PoB tells them that they can get 10 million DPS with only a few divines, they think that's a good build. I subsequently stated that melee skill design didn't change, so previously good playstyles would still be the best going forward, generally speaking. Now, was I right in this statement? I was partially right. On screen, you can see the percentages people are playing different builds in the re-release of 3.25, which has allowed people to digest melee changes from 3 months ago. What you can see is the actual melee builds, where you have to be in melee range of the mobs, are still at a very low play rate, though marginally higher than 3.24, because giving these skills basically double damage didn't hurt them. With true melee skills making up roughly 10% of builds, Lightning Strike alone, which I categorize as a mix of melee and ranged, is at 12% of all builds, and the historically OP bow and wand builds make up a quarter of all builds. So even though after melee got over a 100% more damage multiplier, wand and bow builds are still seeing close to 3 times more play rate in the first week of a league, and will only grow from here. Given this fact, I kinda look like I was right in saying that melee is still melee. That being said, there are a few melee builds in the build meta. If you can call Lightning Strike melee, that was a big winner of the patch at 12%. Frost Blades of Catabasis was also a played skill, but the damage buffs put it at 3%. Flicker Strike, which has a consistent fan base, increased to 2%. A brand new addition to the list is Lacerate of Hemorrhage, which is at 1%. Molten Strike of Zenith, which has become even more popular at 0.9%. Another strong newish build to the list is Viper Strike of Mamba at 0.9%. And lastly, Ground Slam of Earthshaking, which is seeing a decent amount of play rate given it's the first week with its strong base AoE, is at 0.7%. Now, it may seem like I am a melee hater, but I am not, as 3 of my 8 builds that I regularly play are melee, and I recently showcased their mapping speeds in a build compare video. I just know the reality of the current state of Path of Exile, and that is clear speed is king. While Tier 17 maps partially push against this meta by having more complex map modifiers and a tanky boss that drops valuable loot, which makes it so that builds can't 100% invest into full screen coverage, I don't see a world where melee builds overtake bow builds or wand builds. Maybe in Path of Exile 2, which seems to be heavily boss focused, but we will see.